Members, we have carefully looked at the rules of the Texas Senate as well as other secondary authority on which our rules are primarily based. In particular, Mason's Legislative Manual, which I think many of you probably have in your office, and referring to Division 3, which deals with subsidiary motions, which a motion to table is. We find in Section 331 that a motion to lay on the table may be applied to any main motion, any question of privilege, any order of the day after it is before the House for consideration, any appeal, any motion to reconsider when immediately pending, a bill of either House in any stage of its progress, even after being returned from the other House with amendments. And then G, only questions before the House. To rule that a member in the chair does not have the authority to recognize members on motions to close debate would create a circular situation in which there would not be order in the Senate with regard to the ability to cut off debate when it's appropriate and when it's the desire of the majority of the body to do so. So with that explanation, your point of order is respectfully overruled. Senator Watson, you're recognized to close on the motion to table.
Mr. President.
For what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Exactly what is the ruling that is under appeal at this point? So much time has passed that there is much confusion.
The ruling that is on appeal is the ruling on the point of order that was raised on germaneness on Senator Davis's debate.
And as I'm reading Rule 7.15 on page 62 of our rule book, germaneness is defined in reference to a rule stating no motion or proposition on a subject different from that under consideration shall be admitted under color of amendment or as a substitute for the motion or proposition under debate. And so the question was whether a discussion about sonograms would be germane. Is that correct to this Senate Bill 5?
That's correct.
And the question was whether it was germane because, in fact, we passed a law requiring women who were going to take abortions to first get a sonogram. And the ruling was that that was not germane? Was that the ruling?
Right, Senator Zaffirini, and now we're on an appeal of that ruling, and now we need to go to Senator Watson to close.
All right, but I have another parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
And the question under consideration, and the reason that we are debating whether the member should vote on this particular ruling, is that the reference was to 3 warnings related to germaneness. Is that correct?
Senator, these questions have been asked and answered, I think, with several parliamentary inquiries.
But I do have a parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President. I would like to clarify it. So much time has passed that people are confused, and I certainly would like to clarify it and ask for the privilege of parliamentary inquiry.
State your parliamentary inquiry.
My parliamentary inquiry is, first of all, the first ruling, as you explained to Senator Vanderpute, was about germaneness, correct?
That's correct, Senator.
The second one was about aid to Senator Davis.
That's correct. And the third one was about germaneness.
And germaneness. So there have been 2 rulings relative to germaneness and one about aid, which was also questioned by some of the members.
That's correct.
Well, if I'm reading, first of all, going back to Rule 4.03 on page 9 of the rule book, titled Interruption of Member Speaking, which really has nothing to do with aid at all. Under the editorial note, and please note that it is only an editorial note, on page 10, it is written, The point of order having been raised for the third time that a senator who had the floor was not confining his remarks to the bill before the Senate, the chair requested the Senate to vote on the point of order. So please note that the reference is to confining the remarks to the bill before the Senate. Now,
Senator, are you stating an inquiry or are you debating the motion?
I'm getting to my inquiry. On page 11, under the note of rulings, you would agree with me, I hope, Mr. President, that the reference in this note of a ruling, not a rule and not an editorial note, but simply a note of a ruling, reads, raising of a third point of order against further debate by a senator on the floor who has digressed for a third time from a discussion of the pending amendment after having been twice requested to confine his debate to the amendment justifies the presiding officer in calling for a vote by the Senate on the question of whether or not he shall be permitted to resume and continue his remarks. My parliamentary inquiry is, if the editorial note and the note on the ruling, pertinent to Rule 4.03, interruption of a member speaking, clearly refers to three points of order relative to germaneness, and we have established through your answers to my questions that only two were relative to germaneness and one was relative to aid, my parliamentary inquiry is, isn't that ruling out of order and premature at this point in time? Because there have been only two references to germaneness, not three. I know I'm right, but we're the minority.
Senator, I think that as the debate has followed through, the presiding officer has indicated that three infractions of the rules would be sufficient to move the body, for the body to move to remove the senator from the floor for the purpose of debate.
Parliamentary.
We're presently on the appeal of the third infraction and the third point of order.
In my parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President?
State your inquiry.
My inquiry is that perhaps that ruling has been premature, so we should not be having this discussion if the reference was only two actions related to germaneness, not three.
Senator, I think I believe you're debating the motion. You're debating the appeal on the motion to table the appeal. That's a non-debatable motion. Senator Watson, you're recognized to close.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
Senator.
To what rule are you referencing? What rule are you referencing in making that ruling?
Senator, I'm referencing the procedure and process that we've gone through to get where we are. We had a point of order that's been overruled. Senator Watson moved to appeal. Senator Estes moved to table. Senator Watson is now recognized to close on the motion to table. Senator Watson.